Me and Rachel recently got the opportunity to put on our own gallery show, which was an extremely exciting and rewarding experience, to say the least. It was the first time both of us were really conceptualizing a show from start to finish, thinking of what kind of art we wanted to put in the show and how we wanted the gallery experience to be for a viewer, as well as just really having a say in the message that we wanted to communicate with our work. It was also our first time working together with another person on a project of this nature. It's not often that you get to work on a project like this with your best friend and be given so much freedom in a gallery like this. It was a really unique experience, and I thought it would be fun if I could share some of the things we were thinking about as we were planning the show. So first, let me start with how this show came to happen. We happened to be friends with the art curator for this gallery, junior high. Chelsea, who curates the gallery, used to work at a ceramic studio where we both worked at. And at the end of last year, Chelsea had become the art curator of this gallery. She reached out to Rachael, seeing if she wanted to do a show. Rachel had recently done her own solo show in Taiwan, and from what I understand, I think she just always wanted to do a project like this with me, and she asked if she could pitch a duo show to the gallery, and Chelsea thought it was a great idea. So we've known about this show for almost a year. The majority of the time leading up to the show, basically the first 7 months, was just us thinking and stewing about the show. I think we both wished we were the type of artist that could think of a cool idea, stay set on it, and create a bunch of work over time. But honestly, we were really indecisive and we're perfectionists in our own way, where we both knew that if we couldn't find the perfect idea for our show, neither of us would feel motivated to create work for the show. So for the first 7 months, it was us pitching ideas over and over between us, trying to create work, it not feeling right. And then finally, around early to mid-July, both of us were like, we need to figure out what we're doing for our show. Our show was opening at the end of August. We were already running out of time. And we both just sat down and said, we need to create a show that is open enough for us to just create a series of work without it feeling like it's out of place and like a very specific, strict theme. But also, we need to have a theme that makes our work feel cohesive. We thought of a few adjectives and phrases that we wanted our show to circulate around. The first was a studio-like atmosphere. The second was playfulness. The third was healing. We wanted the show to feel less formal, more casual. And if you've ever seen Yoshitomo Nara's art exhibits, a lot of time his exhibits feature a replica of his own home studio. And even the walls themselves are full of sketches. Paper is just put on the wall unframed, and you really feel like you're getting a look inside his art process. And you're getting to know the artist, which is the kind of experience both of us enjoy whenever we go to art shows. We also wanted our work to feel playful, and a lot of our work is about play. We don't really stick to a specific medium. We wanted it to feel vulnerable and show that we were exploring in our work and experimenting with different mediums. And ultimately, having fun is one of the most important things for both of us as artists. And the last thing is we both were experiencing our own specific types of art block. And personally, for me, I just couldn't really make art without thinking about what other people would feel about it, and it was preventing me from doing the things I loved. The only things I could really find myself drawing without thinking during those times were these portraits of trees that I made. because of this experience, I thought of the idea of what do us two as artists collect throughout our lives? What do we return to again and again? What do we find ourselves drawn to that heals us and inspires us to continue making art even when it's really hard? Our show theme is kind of abstract, but basically the way I explained it to Rachael when we first thought of the show title, Hold Me Close, is I wanted our show to give that feeling of when you've spent a long day at the beach, collecting seashells, rocks, and seaweed and sand, and the feeling of holding those treasures and the ocean's most precious things in your hands and feeling rich. This feeling of richness doesn't have anything to do with money. It doesn't have anything to do with success. It is literally just like the spirit of play and the spirit of feeling held by the world. And I think that's the kind of healing we both needed in our lives throughout this year. Based off of these loose parameters, we started making our work about 2 months before the show, which is kind of crazy, but I think we were both pretty confident that as soon as we landed on an idea that we were passionate about, we would just hit the ground running and the work would just flow from there. Whatever.
Oh. Like a pyramid.
And then I'm built like a Dorito. Regular butter or fancy butter? What is the difference? Can you say that again for the camera?
One is churned in France, and the other is churned by 365 by Whole Foods Market. He's really good at dancing. When he dances, I'm like, what the fuck? He moves his body like he knows how to move his body.
Wow.
Like he is in there. Do you taste the difference?
The Whole Foods one is sweet cream, so it tastes sweet. And then the France one tastes like saltier.
It's just sweet and soft.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, the France butter, this has more flavor in general.
Okay. These alternatives. For breakfast, we have a day-old shrimp burrito.
Bon appetit.
It's still cold. But it's kind of good.
Driver Rachael.
We crashed right now.
You turn over at me as you're making like a turn.
Pensando que era.
Is it? Oh no. So once we planned our show and created all of our work, basically the gallery was the first place we saw our body of work all together in one room. Since we'd been working in our personal studios in our houses and we don't share a studio, we finally got to see our work, and that's where we started planning how our walls would look. I ended up mocking up the wall in Adobe Illustrator. As best as I could, try to make the work to scale. I mocked up the big wall that contained the majority of work in the gallery, and I tried to give this feeling of looseness and this feeling that you were in a studio. Each piece didn't have to be spaced out and given their own presence. We both wanted to give the feeling that this is us experimenting. You're in our studio, you're in our lab, and you get to see us exploring and having fun. It was really fun working with Rachael throughout this process because I think even though we're both artists with similar interests and we just tend to be on the same wavelength in general, we both have different things that we're good at. Our priorities are different, which is great when you're working on a duo show. Rachael was the one where she was thinking about the reception and the opening, and we need to have this available for the viewers. We need to prepare the price list. We need to bring snacks. We need to think of the music. She was thinking about that side of the experience for the show, and I definitely didn't want to think about that part. I really didn't want to deal with that. I was more concerned with the layout on the wall and having a plan that we could follow, so setting up the walls was smooth and effortless. So that's how we divided and conquered, basically. I figured out where things were going on the wall. I figured out measurements, and she basically figured out everything else.